Welcome to the Morning Startup, where we believe you can develop neural pathways that will awaken you to a full heart and clear mind. Live with joy, health, and success. I'm your host, Michael Oliver, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Deborah Dyack and Maria Gosher. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
We are super excited to have Bobby Johnson with us this morning. We have been planning this for a while, so I'm really glad that you're here. Bobby is the founder and owner of Colors of the Wood, located in downtown Northville, and we're going to hear more about the company in itself. But just briefly, Colors of Wood is a woodworking company based in downtown Northville, and Bobby specializes in kitchen and home decor items for homes, businesses, and special events, which could be weddings and other things like that. Cutting boards, serving trays, bottle openers, coasters, and end tables. Bobby, in the work that he does, utilizes over 26 unique species of hardwoods to build a wide variety of products, and they are beautiful. And we'll talk more about that later in the show, about all the different patterns and designs. And that's one of the things I'm going to hit on with you a little bit later, is to talk about how you come up with these patterns and designs, because I think that they're really fascinating about the process and how you do that. But there's more than just featuring a woodworking company. And here at Mindtation, we love stories that feature people who are doing work that brings them joy, because when you find joy in work and life, everything shifts to a living with a full heart and clear mind, which is why we have Bobby with us here today. So one of the things that I was interested in having you share, Bobby, is because finding joy in the work that you do wasn't always happening for you.
Sure.
That was something that evolved over time. So I thought that maybe to jumpstart this conversation off a little bit, can you share with us what you did before Colors of the Wood, and then kind of what led you to making that shift and then opening up Colors of the Wood?
Yeah, you got it. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the intro there. It's always a pleasure working with you guys.
Thanks.
We've created quite a connection over the years here. So I just truly appreciate it, you guys.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah. But yeah, you said it, Michael. I haven't always been doing woodworking. It's actually pretty new for me, all things considered. I've been woodworking for about 3.5 years now. And before that, I had a pretty normal career path. I did the 4-year degree, graduated from U of M with an economics degree, went off to Chicago, and I did commercial insurance out there for a year, came back home to Michigan, stayed in insurance for some time. And then my career actually pivoted into actuarial work. I started doing work with like pension calculations, retirement type work.
Okay.
And it was always something that fit my brain and I was good at, but I never particularly enjoyed.
Was that all the calculation stuff that
Yeah.
is that like your brain works more in like that mathematical way?
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of math, a lot of spreadsheets.
Oh my goodness.
Like, especially towards the tail end of my career, I was just buried in spreadsheets, a day over day over day, just calculations. And I have always enjoyed retirement planning and that sort of thing. But when you're in the nitty gritty calculations of pension plans all day, every day, it wasn't fitting my brain anymore.
Right.
And I honestly wasn't sure where I was going to pivot, or I didn't really even have a plan to pivot.
Okay.
But I started woodworking after my first son was born. I was busy with work. I was busy with him, and I needed a little escape. So I started woodworking in the garage just for fun. And it's a funny thing. I would say, like, I would go to my job and I would work for 8-9 hours, and I would feel every 5 minutes pass. And then I would come home and I would have my family time, and that would go by in a blur, and my son would go to bed and I'd go out in the garage and I'd build, and I could be out there for 4 hours and it felt like 5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that's kind of a cool example of when you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you enjoy, time is irrelevant. It really is.
I find
that was that wake up call.
So that's when you started realizing that. Well, so that's interesting. When you were out in the workshop working, did it make your job feel more heavy or cumbersome? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely. Like, that's what changed something in my brain to make me realize how little I was enjoying my career, because that was making me aware of feeling that time pass, feeling the work of what I was
You're
doing.
able to see the difference.
What gave you the pivot?
Yeah.
What gave you the courage to actually make that pivot? Because that's pretty
Yeah.
huge.
That's a big.
You know, I honestly, so when we had our first son, he was born prematurely. He was born 10 and a half weeks early, and we spent about 2 weeks in the hospital with him. And it was during that time that I shifted in life in so many ways, and like what really is important in life, where are you going to focus your energy and your time, and more so than that, what example do you want to be? When you have kids, all of a sudden you're really forced to think about, what do I want to portray the world as for them? And one of the biggest pieces that ultimately helped me make that jump to quit my job and to really pursue it was that I want to be able to tell my kids to pursue their dreams and do what they love. And how can I tell my boys to do that if I'm not doing that myself? If I'm driving to a job that I hate every day and then coming home and saying, James, follow your dreams, do what you love, that's hypocritical. So I think that push and that for him to be able to portray that to him is what kind of changed that in my head. And then I figured, what's the worst that can happen? I get a new job. I go work in a different office if this doesn't work out, but at least I can say to him for the rest of his life, I tried to pursue my dreams. That dream didn't work out for me, but there's other ones. And fortunately enough, so far it's panning out. So, but that's not to say I would never pivot again if it was the right decision for me and my family. But I'm just crazy fortunate that I get to go out in the workshop and build the things that I love, and then other people appreciate them. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So like Michael talks about your business, and I would just like to know, what were the steps that led, like, I know it didn't happen overnight where you first decided this is your passion. So then what were the steps that you took to where you ended up in this amazing?
Yeah. It's gradual. It all happened for me fairly quickly, but gradually at the same time. And a lot of it really comes down to timing in the end. So when I quit my job, that was the first big step. Like, we had done one art festival and we saw the reaction to our work for the first time. And I felt like it was real, but we were never sure. So I quit my job, and I quit like at the worst time. It was right in the middle of the winter when we had no art show scheduled or like any means to sell or, get our work out there. And so I kind of started panicking, like as the as the spring wore on, and I got to the point where I started applying for other jobs. And I went through a series of 3 or 4 interviews with a financial planning company, and they offered me a job, and I accepted the job. And that next week I was going on vacation with my family. So we left on our trip. And while I was down there on vacation, I just started feeling that, like, I'm about to go sit in an office every day. Yeah. And I literally called them while we were on vacation, and I just said, I'm sorry, I can't do this.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was like, I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't do that. And not 2 weeks after we returned from that trip, my wife and I were walking through downtown Northville, and we came across this window with a sign that said for lease. And we looked in the window and we were like, whoa, we're opening a store. We got to do this.
Amazing.
Before we saw that sign in the window, we had no ambition of opening a store. We figured we'd stick with art shows, stick with online. But when we saw that space, it just clicked. And because I had turned down the other job, we were in a position to jump on it. We had the opportunity.
That's awesome.
So a lot of it's luck in so many ways, and just timing. And then another piece of it is I originally did a lot of my building at the Village Workshop, which is a little makerspace in Northville, which is actually where we are now. The building has been repurposed, and Podcast Detroit is in the building where I actually started a lot of my woodworking. And as I used their equipment and grew my business, I realized the importance of my own equipment, and they ended up pivoting and removing all the woodworking equipment. And again, just the timing of it was perfect for us. We had just finished a really strong holiday season, and I was able to invest in that equipment myself. So to be able to transition from a business where I was paying a membership and losing that money to a business where I owned my own equipment and I had the control of how we grew really benefited us. And I believe that if the Village Workshop were still operating, we would still have a strong business, but my business is actually now stronger because we were forced to go on our own and invest in that equipment ourselves. And so it's timing. Had the Village Workshop closed 3 months previous before that holiday season, I don't know if I could have justified sinking all of that money into the equipment because I didn't have the proof of concept yet. But after that proof of concept, I had the confidence to pull the trigger. So
did you I find your work fascinating.
Thank you.
It really is. So, when I'm backing up, so, you think about starting a company, right? You think about, I'm going to start this company. And so I know you were saying you really didn't have a plan. You really weren't happy with the work that you were doing. Yeah. You would go into your workshop and you would just kind of do some things in your workshop and be like, this is really joyful. And 4 hours could pass like a blink of an eye. But what did you what was the, why was it? Were you making cutting boards and coasters? What, you know what I mean? What was it that you chose the types of products and I know that's expanded now over time, but when you first started, when you were going into your workshop and just kind of playing around, were you building cutting boards or what was that?
So,
why that?
Very early on, the reason I bought my first saw was because I wanted to make a coffee table in our house just for us. I have no idea why I wanted to make a coffee table. I really don't.
I'd like a coffee table.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to try it. So I did, and I really enjoyed it. And then I made a shoe rack, and then I built actually an armoire for my son's room. And we live in a pretty small house, and all of a sudden, I couldn't keep making big furniture items because we had nowhere to put this stuff. So I started making cutting boards just for us. And then I would make a lot that I would give to friends and family just for free. I just wanted to build. Yeah. So I'd make a cutting board and give it to someone. And the more I did that, the more people started specifically reaching out and asking, how much is this cutting board? Could you make one this size? Could you make one with this type of wood? And I didn't see it as a business yet. Okay. I just knew that I really liked building, so I would agree to every project anyone came to me with. And then you have to invest money in some tools. Sure. And I took on probably 12 projects at the very beginning that I made no money on because I had to buy clamps and I had to buy tools. But I knew if I wanted to build this thing, then I had to buy those clamps. And so I did it. And then I had more tools. And the more I did that, all of a sudden I got into a situation where I had the equipment. And then it was okay, let's try an art show. Let's see what we have here. And I always joke with my wife, even still, if no one bought my cutting boards, I would not stop making them. They would be piled up in a closet somewhere in our house. I just love building them. The fact that other people appreciate them and want to purchase them from us is great. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was thinking that there must be something meditative or organic working with wood. And as corny as that may sound, but it's grounding and it's fulfilling spiritually you're working with something very natural. Absolutely. And so I don't know if that had an impact on your work, which is the part I love about, and even your name of your company, that has to be your passion, if you want to talk about.
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. The name's actually really funny. The first festival we did, we didn't really have a name. It was just the wood things that I built, right?
Bobby Johnson
And
would.
we realized over the course of that show that when customers or patrons would come into our tent and we'd be talking about different pieces, I would say, oh, the colors of the wood in this piece, blah, blah, blah. The colors of the wood in this piece, blah, blah, blah. And it was actually my wife's sister, when we were all kind of sitting down brainstorming names, she's like, you always talk about the colors of the wood in your pieces. And we were like, yeah, colors of the wood. And it just kind of stuck. So we went with it.
And that's kind of your trademark or whatever with the colors of the wood.
Yeah.
Could you explain, because how do you do that? I mean, I'm not a woodworker, but I know that you always blend these beautiful colors. And
Yeah.
what's
Your process.
a typical,
You're probably thinking of the
I
process.
am. I can't. Yeah.
Well, I'm fortunate in that nature does so much of the work for me. It really is the truth.
Wow.
I use, as Michael said in the opening of the show, I use 26 different species of wood now.
Wow.
From all over the world.
Mhm.
Brazil, Central America, Africa, North America. Many of our woods come from right here in Michigan. And those colors and those grains are all so uniquely different. When I have a new pattern or design in mind, I have this stock in my workshop now where I can just pick and choose these boards based on the colors that I want to naturally pull out of the piece. And because of that, I never, in anything that I've built, I've never stained or dyed anything. I can truly rely on the natural colors. And that is really just a function of nature. If nature didn't create these beautiful trees and these beautiful colors, my pieces would be a lot less interesting. But because nature does such a wonderful job on the front end, I just get to cut it and reconfigure it in a different way.
So that isn't stained.
Completely natural.
Oh my
You
goodness.
got it.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything you do is
Well, and I
beautiful.
think, and the other thing I find fascinating are your patterns.
Yeah.
Now those patterns, and I know, and so I could just say that, you know, we don't have samples here, but if people ever wanted to check out the variety of things that Bobby does, go to his website, which is colorsofthewood.com.
You got it. Colorsofthewood.com.
Yep. And but the patterns to me are fascinating, and some of the work that you do even structures into kind of a three-dimensional feel.
Yeah.
And the placement of those different species of wood within that structure is interesting. So could you talk to me a little bit about patterns? Like, do you think in patterns? Do you just, you know what I mean? Like, so for instance, if you said to me, Michael, make me a board. Yeah. Like, I'd be like, oh, okay, give me a couple, you know, glue them together. But you know what I mean? Sure. But you have this, by looking at what you produce, to me, it's like, wow, like, where did that come from? I'm always fascinated at how people develop this. Is it a dream? Is it you just like one day you're having coffee and how do you, because they're very unique.
Yeah, you touched on it. I think one of the most amazing things about just being human is that all of our brains are so different. We think and see the world in such different ways. And for whatever reason, I see the world in patterns. My entire brain works in patterns. And we were talking about it a little bit this morning, along with Maria, like Legos, right? Yeah. I played with Legos as a kid nonstop.
Like, how old you were young though, right? You
were from whatever age I was old enough to not choke on them through high school through now.
Now you just step on them.
Yeah, totally. I just like the spatial awareness and the like blank slate Legos give you. I credit a lot of my creativity to that, as silly as it sounds, because I would just build and take something apart and build and take something apart.
I find that interesting, because now I want to just pivot for a second, because, you know, Maria, right? She's a creative designer. So did you like, does that align with you when you like?
I was a Lego person, so yeah.
So, but I find that interesting because I didn't know until you started talking about it. I did not know you did Legos.
Oh yeah.
But But was it similar, like in your thinking?
I followed the directions.
Okay,
So,
sure.
I wasn't a creative like I'm gonna build
Free
something myself.
form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was more of I'm gonna build this according to the instructions.
Sure.
We're gonna build a massive city, and so I was a visionary in that sense. But
I love it.
yeah, it sounds like you were more pattern oriented.
That's funny. So yes and no. I think, like you said, there's so much structure in like the instructions of Legos. I mean, it's like 5,000 parts, and then you have
It's
like
intense.
this thing at the end. Yeah. And so I would say anytime I got a new kit, I would always for sure follow the instructions and build it perfectly first. And then within a few hours, it's like, how can I make this different? And how can I take this other kit and incorporate that and like make it into something totally unique? It's still a car, but it's a different car than what's on the box. Yeah. And actually, I mean, just the structure of following those. I have a 3.5-year-old at home now, and he's just of the age where I can sit down with him with the instruction book and watching him follow along and put those pieces in the right place. I feel like that is developing his brain in ways that so many other things cannot. To be able to sit down and have the focus to assemble something like that. And I think you could vouch for that now where you are with your career and with what you design, just the structure of that.
I have to ask Michael and also Bobby. I wasn't present for the beginning when you both began to collaborate. How did the collaboration begin? And because it is a beautiful partnership now.
It is a beautiful partnership. Really weird. I mean, we talk about synchronicities all the time, especially with Mindtation. And Bobby, you know that we've talked at nauseam about how much synchronicities. So, yeah, help me out with this now. Your sister?
Yep. So my sister,
Elaine.
Elaine Johnson, is good friends with Sarah Tyndall,
which is my sister's daughter.
Yeah.
The universe is good.
Yeah. So they are best friends.
Yeah.
And you were doing a show. It was downtown Northville.
That was probably our very first show. I think that was.
It was in front of your store.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. It was in front of your store, and I was walking through downtown Northville with my sister, Sarah's mom.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, that's Bobby Johnson. That's his sister is Sarah's best friend." And at the time, Mindtation was looking to do partnerships. I mean, Marie and I would walk around downtown Northville, and we would just be like, "Oh, there's a label company. Let's go look at them."
Sure.
Or there would be a candle company. Let's go look at them. You know, we were just always hanging out at these shows, trying to see if there was a vendor there that might have an opportunity that we might be able to partner with, whatever. So we always had our antennas up for that.
Sure.
So when my sister was like, that's, I'm going like, okay, let's go see what he's about. And then I think I introduced myself to you.
Yeah.
And then we connected by the, Sarah and your Elaine's connection. And it was like, oh, wow. But,
and just finding that connection, like you don't know how it's going to come. And gosh, that was probably 2 years ago.
Right.
And here we are sitting in a podcast studio talking about it. You just never know where those connections are going to lead.
Analogous to Legos, right? All the pieces, they all fit, they all come together. You just have to find them, but they come.
I swear this isn't a sales pitch to get Lego to send me about free stuff.
Oh, wouldn't that be
wouldn't
funny?
Hurt. No.
But it is. I mean, all the pieces do come together, and I just think it's such a beautiful partnership.
Yeah,
especially where
what's
things
really,
keep moving.
And what's really nice is like, especially with Bobby, anytime that we have an idea about wanting to do something, it can be really a sketch. Like sometimes you have to go and talk to someone, and it's like you have everything laid out. Like whether it's a box and you got to have measurements laid out and everything. Like with Bobby, we can go in and just say like, hey, we got this deck of cards and we're looking for like a card stand of some sort. And Bobby will be like, oh yeah, well, we could do this. And
exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, we can just have this real open conversation about basically brainstorming. And, your ideas are really amazing how you can just you come up with these things. And then, so again, we'll see something like the coasters, great example, right?
Yeah.
You said you came up with that. You said, well, like I have these coasters, and you pulled the coasters out and you're like, we could put your logo on that. We could burn it in with the laser. And I'm going, Bobby, that's great. We could do that.
Well, it
It is
works both
amazing.
ways too, because you guys have come to me with so many amazing ideas, and you guys have had the trust in me to say,
Yeah.
this is generally what we want.
Yeah.
How should we go about creating it?
Yeah.
When you came to me for the card stands,
Yep.
to be able to display the meditation cards, I had been making candle holders. I had just started making those a month or two previous, and we all looked at them together and we're like,
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
We just need to remove these holes, cut a slit, and we have a card stand.
Yeah.
And so it goes both ways for you guys to have these ideas and
Yeah.
this vision. And then I'm fortunate enough to help you guys make
Yeah.
them tangible and make them real. That's the best kind of partnership.
Yeah. And it's the synchronicity of it, which I think is really fascinating. I mean, it's really effortless,
Yeah.
the way that, when you look at how the relationship, how we met, how it started, and then it's like, these things just kind of evolve. It's really,
And the way we've stayed in sync,
mhm.
meditation has pivoted.
Yeah.
Colors of the Wood has pivoted numerous times. And through each of our pivots, we've stayed in sync perfectly along the way. And that's really a cool thing.
Yeah.
I think some businesses who are even eager to work together, if pivots go the wrong way,
Mhm.
there's not a common ground anymore. And we've always kept such a strong common ground.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this pivot?
Why, sure we can. That'll lead us into the whole idea of the project, but I think it's fine.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead. 'Cause that,
We had you talk about the
Put me on the spot.
oh my
Living
God.
Love project, but it's interesting because when you say
Well, yeah, so
that
when
you're
you-
in
yeah.
sync, synchronicity, he's
Yeah.
he's developing
well, that's great.
the hearts.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we have a Live and Love project that we're working on
Sure.
right now. And
Before our minds came together
Well, yeah.
on
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
we were independently
Right.
creating
Yeah.
something that was already
amazing.
going
I don't know where
to.
the camera's
Do you wanna-
at, but
do you wanna-
amazing. Yeah, it's very exciting.
So the Live Love project was, so this is for more for our audience to kind of,
Yeah.
so, I mean, so with everything going on in the world today, presently, one of the things of the many things that we hear, but the kind of the consistency you hear is about at the core, we have to get back to love, at the core of it, at the very core of it, we need to get back to living love in terms of a verb and kind of making that akin to these acts of kindness and loving one another. And, when you strip away all the layers of color and religion and ethnicity and all of that, and you get down to
Bare bones.
bare bones, it's about
Mhm.
love.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so many years ago, when I started, I was probably 18, 19 years old. I had a mentor of mine who wrote a very beautiful piece of writing, and it was called Living Love Every Moment of My Life. And synchronicities, again, you fast forward so many years later, and I'm cleaning out the garage, and he had a program called Probe. And at any rate, I came across the binder of things that he was involved with and that I was involved with at the time. And this piece of writing came out, literally just kind of dropped out of the binder. It did. It literally dropped out. And I'm going, living love every moment of your life. And I read that, and it was so moving to me. It was moving to me at the time, years ago, when I first read it. When I first heard it, it brought tears to my eyes. And so I thought, oh my God, this is perfect timing.
Yeah.
And so I shared it with Maria and Deborah, because we're always sharing with each other. And I said, what do you guys think about this? And they both were like, wow, that's really powerful. And the next thing that came to mind was, well, I think we could take something and do something with this. Like, we'll call this the Live Love Project. Live Love Project. So we decided that what we would do is start working on this writing a little bit and updating it and making it more current, because it was written back in the 80s and things of that sort. So we started working on that. And then we have another partner with us, Jack Spivey, who does the music. So we thought, geez, why don't we match this with some music? And Maria said, we could do a video too. And so Maria was like, okay, we're going to do this. Maria's like, I love video. Let's work on a video piece of it. And Michael, you could do the voice, and Maria can work on the video, and Jack can do the music track. And it's like, okay, well, let's put this together and Live Love Project, put it out there. I think it's a great message that the world needs to hear right now. So then so then as Bobby, we always share ideas. Like when any one of us, whether it's Maria or myself or whatever, and we get, and we run across Bobby, or we're in downtown Northville, we stop in a store, whatever. We're like, hey, Bobby's like, what are you guys doing now? And we're like, well, we did a pivot. We got a project we're working on. And I said, what's that? And it's like, it's a Live Love project. And we're and it has to do with the heart. And Bobby goes, hearts?
I've been making those during the entire quarantine.
so pick up so Bobby's like, I've been making hearts. And I'm like, what? And he goes, and Bobby said, yeah, like maybe we could do something together.
Sorry.
Maybe we could do something together. And I'm going like, yeah. You think? So that's where we converged. But just as to kind of sidestep back a little bit, talk about how you came, how you came to actually making hearts.
Yeah.
Which was during the quarantine period.
It's crazy. I mean, at the same time as you were discovering this writing and this project, I was at home. Our store was closed during the quarantine, during the shutdown, and I needed a little tangible project that I could use to just try and spread some happiness and some love. So I started laser engraving these little 1.5 and 2 inch hearts out of wood, and I put them up on our website and our Facebook page for as inexpensively as I could to just try and get as many out in the world. And people's reaction to them was so strong. It just gives somebody something tangible, a physical thing to assign that emotion, to assign that love to.
Carries that energy.
And hope.
Absolutely.
The hope and love.
Yeah. I'm such a proponent of just a small physical, whatever it may be, even though that there's not maybe a real connection in the sense of the word, there's still an emotional connection.
It's concrete.
A link between things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so my thought was, so maybe somebody in the hospital, maybe somebody in a nursing home, maybe somebody across the country that you just can't be with. You can send them a heart, and every time they touch that heart, they're connected with you.
Yeah.
When my son was in the NICU, we had to leave our baby every single night and drive 30 miles away and go home and go to bed. And so we bought 2 stuffed animals. We had little monkeys. There was a big monkey and a little monkey. The big monkey stayed with him, and that was mommy and daddy. And the little monkey came home with us every day. And that's kind of what I had been working with this for a few years based on the emotion we were able to assign to those stuffed animals and feeling like we were with our son in the hospital room. Why can't something like a beautiful wooden heart connect people however it is that they have to be a part?
Yeah.
And then when we started talking,
so
it was just like crazy.
Yeah.
That like we had been completely separately working on the same thing.
Yeah, the synchronicities.
Same energy. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So stay tuned to that, because there's much more coming as we're right in the middle of building the project, the Live Love project, and the video. We'll be releasing that fairly soon, probably right around the holidays time. And the hearts will be integrated into that, and that'll be Bobby's work as well. We'll be sharing that. So more of that to come. So it should be really a cool project and a great movement. We're hoping that it really picks up and people really get involved with it.
Agreed.
Well, I think everyone would love it. It's a piece of what we need right now.
Absolutely.
It's a humanistic, like it represents love. It represents something that's intangible, like that you can't see, but this makes it concrete. It keeps you mindful of.
And just to pick up on that,
so
Deborah,
beautiful.
I think what really plays a good example of that. Okay, I'm looking at you, Bobby, because you're going to help me here. So this was not too long ago in front of your store.
Sure. Yep.
Your wallet
when
dropped.
we were getting the coffee together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of a cool example of like how to use the hearts and how I think that they can benefit just the experiences you have with other people. Michael and I were at Tuscan Cafe, a local coffee shop here, and we were just chatting it up.
Sitting outside.
Sitting outside. We hadn't been able to catch up in some time with all the quarantines and everything. And so we're talking, and there's two ladies sitting behind us, and one of them interrupts me to let me know that my wallet had fallen out of my pocket.
It's laying on the ground.
Yeah. It was just on the ground. I did not notice.
Wouldn't have seen it. No.
I may or may not have noticed by the time I get up, but she still was willing to interrupt us in order to tell me that my wallet had fallen. And I thought that was really nice because a lot of people may not. They might just assume you're going to see it when you get up. But the fact that she actually told me was really great. So I was opening my store just a few feet away about 15 minutes later, and the ladies were still sitting there. So I went in and I grabbed a heart and I brought it out just to give to her and thank her for letting me know that my wallet fell, in the hopes that then she'd remember that good deed and continue to bring good deeds on the world like that. And she right away was extremely grateful and pulled all these cards out of her pocket.
Yeah, little 2x2s, right?
Yeah, just small like cardstock cards. And they had different phrases on them, like faith and love and carpe diem. And she was like, pick one. I was like, okay, great. Carpe diem. That's awesome. And I brought it back. Yeah. And I shared that with Michael. He was still in the store. He was holding it down for me. And like that connection would have never happened had she not just gone out of her way to do a small favor for me.
Right.
And then I just believe that then when you can, reward is the wrong word, but when you can show appreciation for something like that with something physical, then you have this reminder of that in the world. I think people, even with the very best intentions, it's easy to get caught up in everything and forget your general mission, what you're trying to portray in the world. But if you have this physical thing on your key ring or in your car, in your house, you have that reminder every day of that good deed, of continuing to do that.
Well, it seems like the energy has certainly picked up on this and is moving forward with it, that the collective energy of love, live love, and to be mindful of being kind to one another, to get back to that humanistic part of human beings, being human.
Absolutely.
So I was just blown away when he told me about that. It's like, so I'm really excited.
Yeah.
It's the universe.
And that's just one example of so many, I think. I mean, people do unnoticed good deeds in the world.
All the time.
Millions of times a day.
Right.
Why can't we notice more of those?
Instead of the bad. I totally agree, because if you look at the news, they don't focus on all the wonderful thing, like the hearts that you're giving away, or the good things. They're focusing on the deaths and all the tragedy in the world. So this is hope, and I love the whole
absolutely. And I'm fortunate now in a retail environment where I sell my work. These people come to my store from all over the state, Ohio, Indiana even, and they're supporting me. And so I make these hearts, and a lot of times when I have a great connection with someone in the store, at the end of their visit, when I'm ringing up their transaction, I always give them a free heart. And I just say, thank you. Like, you went out of your way to drive all the way here and support me by purchasing the thing I made. And now you're sharing that with someone else. And so to be able to like directly thank people and see that reaction over and over again, like I've been able to in my store, it's made me believe in these so much more, even because it's funny, like somebody will buy a nice cutting board for themselves, and at the end of the transaction, I'll give them a heart. And they take away from that the heart as much as they take away
Mhm.
the more
Absolutely.
expensive cutting board, because it's that gesture, it's that show of appreciation for appreciating me and supporting me. And I just think I will never tire of those connections in the store. I'm lucky. I was saying to Michael just yesterday, I have two very different hats in what I do. I have days where I am dirty and covered in sawdust and completely alone in my own head in the workshop. And then I have other days in the store where I can just talk and connect with people all day. And having that balance for me is so important. I couldn't imagine a world where I'm only in the workshop just building. Right. I need to be able to connect with the people and see the reaction to my work and see how that impacts people. That's what's so fun.
And I think that's what ties back into the project we're working on and you're involved with now too, is the Live Love project, is the idea of it is that, the idea of living love is the idea of these small acts of kindness, and that we connect with people, and that's what, it's that energy that we want to, it's that movement, right? It's
Absolutely.
the movement that we want, that where people start being reminded of who we are, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Who are we at our core?
Absolutely.
We're love at our core.
And you guys for recognizing that and seeing that that's out there and finding a project and a path to promote it.
And that people get connected to that and want to be part of that. They want to be part of that ability to be able to pass that on. And so now you're thinking about it. Like, this kind of gets back to what you were saying about having the physical piece, but actually thinking about it. So thinking about that, because just as an example about that wallet, how many times someone might just walk past and see the wallet on the ground, just walk past it.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out or not.
Yeah,
right? But the idea is that when you raise the consciousness through movements like this, and you raise the consciousness and they look at it and they think like, oh my God, that would be an act of love. That would be living love. I heard about that living love. And it's like, hey, by the way, your wallet's on the ground. Hey man,
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for doing that. You know what I mean? And we can build that to where now that becomes the focus and the predominance of what people are doing, and not all the negativity, which, can take over your life and really stunt your own personal growth, where
Absolutely.
Now you kind of help people connect and grow in this way. So
Well, this is like one of our touchstones is mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a mindfulness tool to cultivate love.
Absolutely.
So that it's just, oh yeah. Or even to say, for people even to say, hey, Michael, that's really a cool heart, or Maria, that's a really cool heart that you've got. What is that?
Right. To start that conversation.
Sure. Absolutely.
I don't know. It's just the whole thinking. It's just moving in a nice direction. I really like it.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
I know that you're making the hearts, but during this time of the COVID, how are you able to, or how did you pivot again with your business? Because I'm sure that this hasn't been easy.
Sure. Well, I mean, the truth is what I build is 95% of the time a gift. We're very much in the gift market for weddings specifically. So when the virus hit and people had to cancel weddings, that really impacted us in a selfish way, because honestly, I didn't have as many wedding projects, but people were canceling their weddings. Like, I always felt kind of awkward when people come into my store and they'd be like, how is it for you guys? Has it been hard? And it's like, yes, but I didn't have to cancel a wedding. I didn't have like these big emotional things that I had to pivot away from. Yeah. So I just felt like I'll be okay. I would rather struggle with my business for a little while than like have to tell every single one of my friends and family that they can't celebrate my wedding. I think that's so much harder. But in that, one pivot we saw that was kind of funny is that in the previous 2 years, every single wedding gift we did, with a few exceptions, we would always laser engrave the whole wedding date, October 11th, whatever it is, the whole date. This year, 95% of the wedding gifts we've done, established 2020 because no one knows when anyone's actually getting married anymore.
Right.
I've had friends who have moved their wedding dates 2-3 times.
Yeah.
And so you just don't know. So we've done a lot of wedding gifts that are established 2020. Hopefully they can pull it off by the end of the year. Yeah.
Right.
But so it's been
That's
kind of
interesting.
fun to adapt with people on that. And then for the first time, we've had a lot more people buying boards for themselves, which has been fun. I've been specifically focused on building bigger, more heavy duty cutting boards that people buy for their own kitchen. One of the really cool kind of takeaways from the quarantine is that people started cooking and
Yeah.
refinding their kitchens and their ability to create really wonderful food. So as people started cooking at home more, we've found that for the first time, more in volume, we're selling our boards directly to the consumer who are using that in their own space. And so that was kind of a cool pivot to recognize and to say, okay, maybe we don't need as many of this type of board right now. Let's focus over the next month on making these bigger boards that people are going to have in their own home.
It's pretty cool how you like kind of monitor that. Like you're kind of, watching what kind of develops and, where you might, capitalize on something that otherwise,
and it happens intentionally and accidentally all at the same time. During the quarantine, I didn't really realize that shift was happening. It wasn't until after 3 months that we reopened the store. People would come into the store and they would say, "What is the biggest cutting board you have? I need it for my kitchen."
How big do you want it,
right?
right?
The biggest ones I have right now aren't that big. I better start making some bigger, more heavy duty boards.
And
then in the next few weeks, before this, I would say some of our bigger sizes of boards were 12 by 16 inches. We just found as like general inventory in the store, selling something bigger than that was kind of tough because it was more of a commitment for people. But now that they're cooking at home more, we're making boards that are 18 by 20, 14 by 24 even. So I mean, we're making boards that really fill the counter space now. And then that becomes that person that board never leaves their countertop. It stays right next to their sink, and they scrape the food in and they wash it, and the next time they cook, they use that same board. So it's been cool. It's been cool to see that transition. I think out of everything with this virus and with the world changing, I think it's the people who are willing to embrace it and adapt and pivot. We've used that word a little bit. I think that there's a lot of really cool opportunity right now to just approach things in a different way. And if you're willing to approach in a different way, I think it'll benefit you.
I think it's really a great awareness.
Sure is.
When like you can really, it really becomes a mindset, right? I mean, when you can say like what you just described as a mindset, and so your brain is going to function however you frame the experience that you're looking at, right? So if I'm looking at this whole pandemic, and not to minimize the severity of it, I'm not doing that, but you can look at that through different lenses.
Absolutely.
And depending on the lens that you're looking through can really change an outcome, whether that's a really positive or innovative outcome versus something that is, more destructive.
Absolutely.
And so I know that while, you have on one side of it the severity, and we're not, there's people that have gone through a deep emotional struggles with it. Yes, that's very true. But there's other areas like a business, for example, where you say, okay, well,
businesses are forced to approach it a little bit differently.
So how am I going, or what can I do? And that opens up a whole new level of creativity. That you otherwise, you or any other business might not otherwise have had that opportunity.
So on that note, I remember sharing it with you shortly after a conversation I had with a gentleman about a month into the quarantine. There's a guy locally in town who I just connect with on business ideas and that type of thing from time to time. And he said, "What can you do right now that in 3 years you'll look back and you'll say that the pandemic was the best thing that that could have happened to your business. And I thought that was such a cool mindset, because it's so easy to think like this is gonna hurt us.
Destroy,
This is gonna make things harder. But there's also so many things you can do that, like, I might not be making those bigger boards. I might not have all these hearts right now if this didn't happen. And long term, those things can really benefit not just my business, but others.
Right.
And that's what's such a cool thing, is finding that silver lining. It's there. It's always there.
Yeah. That's
You just got to seek it out.
Yeah.
So good.
There's so many things that I think about when you say that, Bobby, in terms of even when I think about a startup, and Maria has a lot of experience in startups, and this idea that, you start a company, and you have to think about a lot of different things, into, what's our audience, what's our market, what direction are we going in? And it sounds like you've been able to pay attention to the shifting tides enough to where your base is speaking to you, in ways that you can make those kind of adjustments and then deliver the things that they're looking to deliver.
And he's listening.
Absolutely.
And he's listening. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. That's key in anything in life.
Yeah.
Anything.
So as we're kind of beginning to wrap up today, I mean, gosh, it's been
This was
close to an
wonderful.
hour, man. It's just
It's funny how that goes.
right? I think it would fly by, but I'll just share with the audience that, we'll put Bobby's information in our show notes for you, that you'll have that. I encourage you to visit his website, because it is amazing, his work that you do. But I think even deeper, in our kind of where our discussion led today, it's just more, it's clear, like, this is more than just a woodworking company. It's like,
Sure.
there's deeper things at work here that, you're affecting lives through your products and through the woodworking that you're doing, but affecting lives in a very deep way in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
What kind do and not to put you on the spot here, but I mean, are there kind of some things that you think about going down the road that you want to share or not? But kind of like, what's the next thing for Colors of the Wood?
That's a loaded question.
Other than having your boys help you.
Honestly, I have 2 boys at home now. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. And I would not be heartbroken if they wanted to carry on the business someday. Not going to make them, but it'd be pretty cool. But no, honestly, I think just continuing to adapt and to see what people see your business as and what they want out of it. And those connections, I think it sounds cliche sometimes, but the connections that this business has afforded me are as valuable, if not more, than the building and the selfish being able to do my own thing that's afforded me. I think it's so cool. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to you guys if I wasn't a woodworker, if that didn't start this chain. And then when we got our store in Northville, and that allowed us to connect with other businesses in town and have personal connections with the owners of restaurants and businesses that we've been patrons of for years. So I'm very fortunate for that, to be able to see the community in a different way now, and hopefully give back to the community in a different way too.
So I really like that. It kind of brings us back how we started this whole, this whole show was, it was really about, in which we talk about in Mindtation, is really about finding joy, finding that joy and balance in your life and work and what you do, because when you do that, good things will emerge for you. And
absolutely,
and it's nice to,
and everyone's joy is different. And I think that's what's so fun. My joy is woodworking and connecting with people. My father, his joy is music. My father-in-law was a tax professional his whole career. I hate taxes, but he loves it. That's how his brain works. And that was where he was able to find his passion and joy. And the fact that we all have that as a different thing.
And the key,
cool.
And the key, is being able to, which you demonstrated, is having the courage to connect to it.
Sure.
And if you can get through the fear, if you can get through the fear and connect to it and trust, and we talk a lot about that, trust, it will work for you.
Absolutely.
It will work for you.
I believe in that firmly. And that's not to say there's not going to be ups
Sure.
and downs throughout the course. There's going to be a lot of ups, but as you get over each of those, it's more and more meaningful each time you do.
Bobby, it's been a joy, I know,
Thank
for
you.
Maria, and
Yeah,
it's just been
likewise.
awesome.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And we'll continue. We'll keep everybody updated on how everything goes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thanks so much, you
Yeah,
guys.
thanks
This
for
was
being
Thank
there,
you.
man.
wonderful.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Yeah.